So you want to grow in your role, but that means you need to make time to learn during your day. How do you do that? Well, I'm Jo Peacock, and this is what the pros know. Whether you're a manager and you've got a group of people that maybe you want to undertake some training, or whether you are an individual and you want to learn something new, let's face it, it's not going to happen in your sleep, is it? You have to make time to fit learning into your day. So how do you do that and ensure that it's successful? Because I can't just learn something just by picking up a book and reading it, can I? I really need to understand the subject matter. So how do you make sure that the time that you dedicate to learning is successful? Well, my first point is that you've got to have the time to learn. So whether you are a manager and you have got a group of individuals, or whether you are an individual, you need to ensure that you have time set aside for learning. It doesn't have to be a huge amount, but it has to be the right amount of time. 10 minutes is not going to be a great amount of time. Let's think about here at ITProTV. All of our learning videos are between 20 and 30 minutes long. If you want to really learn something and get something new out of each particular learning session, then you need to think about a learning session of at least 30 minutes. Anything less than that, and you're not actually going to learn anything. So take time out of your day. Book a time in your schedule where you can mark yourself as unavailable, and that is a time for personal development. And managers, what you need to do is ensure that every single person in your team has got at least 30 minutes per week, maybe even a little bit longer than that. I would say an hour per week set aside to do some personal development, to actually learn something. In that hour, or maybe 2 30-minute sessions, they will actually be able to pick something up. If it's any shorter than that, they're not going to be able to learn something that they can then absorb and remember. And that leads me on to my second point. And my second point is actually to get the timing right. Do you understand your team? Do you know yourself? Do you know what time is the best time for you? I know that first thing on a morning, that's when I'm at my most awake. So if I want to learn something, then between 7:30 in the morning and around about 9:30 is really, really good time for me to do that. Please don't ask me to try and learn anything new at 4 in the afternoon, because that's not going to happen, because anything that happens at around 4 in the afternoon is in one ear and out the other. I can guarantee that. So if you're a manager, you need to understand your team, because your team will have their own learning styles, and your team will have their own time of day which is most productive for them and which is going to be the best time for them to learn. Don't assume it's the same time for absolutely everybody, because it's not. So make sure that that timing is right. And allow your team, this is my third point, allow your team to be disciplined and focused during that time. This is one of the reasons why I say that 30 minutes is actually a good time. 30 minutes is just the right amount of time to be disciplined and to be focused. Anything longer than that, you're going to be open to distractions. You know that email that came in that you're desperate to read? You're going to be trying to read it because you're going to be distracted. So 30 minutes is a really good time slot. But then it's up to you as a manager to ensure that your team are not disturbed during that 30 minutes. And if that means that they go somewhere else for that 30 minutes, that's great. If you're at home and you're working from home, then that's the time to get out onto the back patio or onto your deck, sit by the pool maybe, sit in the back garden and do your studying there. 30 minutes where you can't be disturbed. That leads me on to my next point as well about not being disturbed. You need to eliminate any distractions. I know that I find it incredibly distracting having people around me when I'm trying to learn. If I want to learn, then I need to be somewhere incredibly quiet. And I'm going to admit that sitting on my back deck is not a place where, I'm going to be great at learning, because there are too many distractions. I see birds, I see deer, I see all sorts of things, and I'm looking at them rather than paying attention. So I need to be in my study at home, and I need to be there by myself with the door closed, no dogs in the room, nothing. That's how I study best. But how do your employees study best? How do you study best? Keep the distractions to a minimum. Now, I know people that will sit there with their earphones in and listen to music. I find music so distracting because I want to sing along to it. And I'll be sitting there tapping my feet, but maybe music is not a distraction for you. You know your learning style. And as a manager, you need to recognize that every single member of your team has got a different learning style. So make sure that you have, as an individual, a do not disturb function on your desktop. So a do not disturb function on Slack or on Teams. Do not disturb. Maybe some people have got little lights on the top of their desk as well. Do not disturb. Please do not interrupt me. You don't want to be letting your animals interrupt you, whether it's the cat that's decided to walk across the keyboard. No, don't allow that to happen. Don't be disturbed. You know, these white noise apps that you can get now to download on your phone, they're really useful to help you with concentration. So maybe you want to try something like that. Something else that I want to encourage managers to think about, as well as individuals, and that is allowing your team to have a drink or a snack with them whilst they actually study. Studies have found, research has found, that if you keep yourself hydrated, and actually if you keep your sugar levels at a certain level whilst you're studying, you tend to learn more. So why don't you have a study room just for your team? You know, a study room that's got a packet of crisps or chips or maybe a chocolate bar in there and some water in there for them to facilitate studying. You know, the more your team learn, then the more skilled they are and the more they can do for you. So why not try to nurture that? And if you're studying by yourself, then sure. I mean, you know, there's never a time that I don't have a chocolate bar next to me. Let's face it. That's just because I'm addicted to chocolate. My next tip is at the end of every study session, take 2 to 3 minutes to summarize what you have learned. Summarize your notes. If you're a manager, then at this point in time, you can ask to see those notes. You say, well, show me what you've learned in this particular in this particular session. What that will do is summarize in your notes. Do it in your own handwriting. Don't type it. Writing things down helps with muscle memory. It actually helps it to sink in. So write it. Write your summary notes out. That will help that knowledge to stay in there. And it's something that you can actually show your manager if you're asked that, hey, look, this is what I achieved in the last 30 minutes. This 30 minutes has been productive. And then, lastly, my last point here is share what you've learned. Share it with your colleagues. Share it maybe on social media. You know, if you've achieved something, then share it with your friends. Share it with your network. Especially if you've achieved an accreditation, if you've got a certificate, then share it with a network. Why not? Everybody wants to celebrate in your success, but also other people could learn from you. Because, you know, what I found is certainly with social media, if I share that I've learned something new, then I'm going to get questions from people asking me, how hard was it? How long did it take you? What were the questions that were asked during the test? So not only are you sharing that you know something, but now you're also giving advice to other people as well. And that is invaluable to them. So share what you have learned. Not only does it boost your confidence, but it also can help your colleagues too. There's some very, very simple tips there on how we can embrace a learning culture and how we can bring learning into our day-to-day environment. Above all, what you want to do is be productive, but at the same time grow. So hopefully those tips will help you to grow in your role. So check out our playlist for more great What the Pros Know. Oh, and be sure to subscribe to our ITProTV channel. But for now, I'm Jo Peacock and you know what the pros know.